Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Neil, 10th Man, Flatzoid, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome one and all.
Hello.
Hello. Wow. Hello, hello.
Bonjour.
Buongiorno.
Bonjour.
Mm-hmm.
Hola. Any evidence of a physical, geometric, sphere-edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth, capable of being a tangent point to measure geometry with?
I looked for it from 18 tee boxes when I played golf yesterday, and I couldn't see it.
Did the horizon keep apparent moving?
Are we all on board
No,
with this, right? The horizon's not a physical location. Therefore, you can't use it as a tangent point. It can't obscure things in the distance. It's not a physical thing to do anything physical. It's an apparent location. It moves with the weather. It's not a sphere edge horizon that bends as you raise an altitude or doesn't bend if you're a flat earther. This line on this picture isn't our horizon. This now is a cartoon. But in reality, whether or not it bends is irrelevant because that point is not our horizon. Our horizon is an apparent location and not a sphere edge.
It also seems to exist solely within the viewing device.
Absolutely. It's purely based on the capabilities of the optical devices capturing it. Now, for the most part, that's aperture, given a clear enough day. That's the diffraction limit. Something that, for some reason, like with Simon Dan attacking us on my next question, we're being attacked over something that we actually use as our argument. We have a diffraction limit. Now, in orthographic Muppet vision, you don't. Now, this is something that's absolutely calculable based on the optics that you're using, and yet it is ignored, nay, hijacked by Earth curve geometry. They call the horizon a tangent point. That's a physical point they can measure, derive R from, and have block boats and buildings. And the horizon is not that.
So, sine of data 0.1.22 by lambda over diameter. Interesting.
Lambda.
Wavelength.
Isn't it a funny coincidence that you've got 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet for the geometry? And yet there it
Coincidence
is.
it might not be.
They've hijacked perspective and they've called it Earth curvature. And then when we point it out, they attack us on our understanding of the very thing we're debunking it with. In this case, diffraction. What's diffraction? Interference. How is it relevant to the subject? Well, there's a diffraction limit based on the aperture of the optical device capturing that point. That would be an apparent location we call the horizon. Moving on. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Don't go spinning on it.
We would see 15-degree. We would see 15-degree rotation if that was true.
The 15 degrees of
But
drift
that's the problem.
as we turned underneath.
But
Yes, that's what I meant.
then that's a problem. They say we shouldn't expect to see this drift.
Then you're not moving underneath it.
Exactly.
Right, let's give the audience some help. Debating 101 Coriolis. Number 1 most important detail. Coriolis, which is a real effect, is only ever describable as you rotate underneath. Describing Coriolis from the perspective of an aeroplane or a bullet is not Coriolis effect. I'll repeat, most important factor, to be Coriolis effect. It is only ever capable of being observed as you rotate underneath things that aren't attached. So it's never going to be a description from an aeroplane or from a train. Coriolis is observable as you rotate underneath. The effect you observe as you rotate underneath is an apparent effect because it's induced because you rotate underneath. Now that's not to say if something's dangling above a rotating platform that as you rotate underneath you won't eventually smack into it in actuality because you're rotating towards it. But the item could just merely be dangling in the path that you are rotating underneath it on. So the trajectory of whatever is being described in Coriolis is irrelevant of Coriolis because, I repeat for the third and final time, the most important aspect, to be Coriolis, you would be rotating underneath. If that's translatable to an Earth that is claimed to spin, then Earth is claimed to rotate underneath things not attached. This includes and is not limited to the sun, bullets, footballs, gyroscopes, pendulums, hot air balloons, helicopters. You, if you jump up and down, anything that leaves the claim to be spinning reference frame, as you are on it still observing that thing that leaves, it would deflect. Again, you would have to be still attached, rotating underneath it to see it deflect. So we're not describing the motion of the helicopter as it takes off and flies upwards. That's irrelevant of Coriolis. Coriolis is you still on the ground, observing it seem to come towards you as you rotate underneath it. And if by chance you're on a roundabout and you launch a drone, so it's hovering above the roundabout, and by coincidence your path, rotating underneath it, happens to intersect that hovering drone, then you will collide with it as you rotate underneath. But the drone and its path isn't what's causing that to happen, because it's a not actual deflection caused only by you rotating underneath. We're not rotating underneath anything on Earth. There is no deflection. Nothing flies away from you at 1,000 miles an hour on the equator as you rotate underneath it, because we're not rotating underneath anything Earth is not spinning.
I think one of the biggest things they have trouble with is apparent and actual. Like, there's a difference between the words apparent and actual, but they keep convoluting the two.
Yes. It looks like as you rotate underneath a drone that's hovering, it looks like the drone flies towards you and smacks you in the face. Now, the drone has not flown towards you in actuality because Coriolis is not describing the actual path of the drone. It's hovering in this example. You still smack into it because you are claimed to be rotating underneath. And in my example with the roundabout, you are rotating towards it. So it looks like, oh my God, the drone's flying towards me, smack. No, you rotated towards it, not actual deflection. The trajectory of the drone being irrelevant. Unless, of course, it's descending in a straight line and happens to coincidentally meet the path as you rotate underneath it. Again, the fact that you collided with it is only still due to you rotating underneath, the cause of Coriolis deflection.
Nathan, wouldn't you need reference frames, at least 2 of them, for this to occur?
Yeah. In this example, you've got 2 reference frames. The reference frame of the drone is non-inertial. Is inertial. It's the frame of reference that will, from your vantage point, seem to have movement. So in my example, the reason it's called the inertial reference frame is because the effect is the drone looking like it's coming towards you as you rotate underneath it. It's not because somebody's piloting the drone towards you. It's hovering. So what you're observing is the inertial effect in that frame of reference. Now, your rotating underneath is described as a non-inertial reference frame, because in this description, the effect you're observing is you and the rotating platform rotating together. So you are effectively non-inertial. You're not moving with respect to the plane that you're moving on. They are moving as one, non-inertial. So the effect it's describing is in the inertial reference frame, but it's a not actual effect. So it's not that the drone is moving through the inertial reference frame, although it might be if it's descending in a straight line down. But as you rotate underneath it, it would look like, and that's the effect being described in Coriolis, it curves towards you to eventually meet you and hit you in the face. Well, that curved path is what's described in Coriolis from the non-inertial reference frame, describing the inertial reference frame of the drone curving towards you when in fact it's just descending. You're rotating towards it. So you have two reference frames. Inertial, that would be the path of the object you're describing, and non-inertial, your frame of reference, which from your vantage point, although spinning, gives an effect of something curving towards you, and that's the inertia being described. It's a not actual deflection. So the path isn't curving, it's you turning underneath. Two reference frames, non-inertial and inertial. Non-inertial being the spinning reference frame, inertial being the frame of reference that the drone's hovering in. By the way, Globers, you and your reference frames used to claim Earth spins with 15 degrees an hour deflection as Earth turns underneath have been ruined. There is no deflection. Earth isn't spinning underneath. Nothing deflects at 15 degrees an hour in spite of your claim it does. Any evidence?
Nathan, why do they?
Go on.
Indeed.
Why did they always insist north to south or south to north when they address this? What are they trying to do there?
They're trying to take the frame of reference being described away from the non-inertial spinning reference, turning underneath, and describe the projection of the motion the bullet or the plane or the ball takes, but not being described from the non-inertial reference frame, being described from the inertial reference frame. And when they do that, they can describe a deflection that's apparent only to the plane, when in reality the deflection in Coriolis effect isn't real. The plane doesn't have a curved path. It's you observing it seem to have a curved path because you turn underneath. So they move the example to the bullet and its trajectory, its actual trajectory. So they say a plane wouldn't have Earth turning underneath. It retains the velocity of Earth. So they're detailing the projectile and its actual path and how that relates to Earth not turning underneath it, when Coriolis effect is the not actual path observed as you rotate underneath. So they're justifying why we don't see things drift apart at 15 degrees an hour as we rotate underneath them. And because they can't justify that from the non-inertial spinning reference frame, because they need to claim it's spinning anyway, they move the example to the inertial reference frame with the plane, bullet or ball, and say the inertial reference frame is moving with the non-inertial reference frame. They're moving together. And any deflection that's going to be observed isn't going to be described from the ground, but described how the plane is moving to counteract the fact that Earth is turning underneath in their assumed example. But that example doesn't give them drift. And they claim Earth has 15 degrees an hour of Coriolis deflection. That would be you on the ground watching the plane seem to curve as you turn underneath it. So they're justifying why we don't see the drift they claim we have by moving the example to the inertial reference frame.
Sounds like a classic law of violation of, I just lost my train of thought there.
Law of contradiction violation. They say we have 15 degrees an hour drift as Earth turns underneath. Oh, right. well, why doesn't Earth turn underneath a plane for me to see it drift at 15 degrees an hour? Because Earth and atmosphere don't move apart, they move together. But that doesn't give you drift.
It's refracted. So some things are deviating, but other things aren't. It's Coriolis refraction.
It's either observable that they move apart, that's Coriolis effect, or they don't move apart, and that's not Coriolis effect. That's them not drifting at 15 degrees an hour. So when they say, well, the plane would blah, 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 the plane's got engines, blah, blah, who cares? Coriolis is me on the ground, firmly attached to it, watching something seem to drift. So I've got to be on the ground, watching something, and I've got to be turning underneath it for us to have this effect. So you telling me that you assume Earth spins, and you assume the plane spins it with it, that means I'm not observing it from the ground, seem to drift away then. So no Coriolis drift. Well, the fact that things are supposed to drift is supposed to be the thing that proves we spin, not just your assumption that they spin together with absolutely no sodding evidence of that occurring beyond your assumption that the Earth's spinning and Earth and atmosphere are violating the first law of thermodynamics by spinning together.
But wasn't that really what the theory of relativity was for? To basically state, no, because everything is all relative with big motions, apparently, even though physical gyroscopes disprove this notion, that Earth could be considered as if still when the universe was spinning around it, it would work just as well.
Well, no drift then. So no drift, as per their Coriolis effect.
Yes. Basically,
well, so
Einstein
I don't care.
was setting
We could discuss,
no drift.
Alvin, we could discuss this. But like with the ballers, I'm not going to get into explaining to them how their claim works. As soon as they start telling me about how they assume Earth spins, or they assume that in this example, the skies are moving and we're not, well, that doesn't give you Coriolis deflection. Doesn't mean Earth's turning underneath a man being dragged along on a bouncy trampoline. You know, he should jump up in the air and have Earth turn underneath him at whatever rate the given latitude gives him. And he's not. There is no drift. Apparently, we don't see 15 degrees an hour. Apparently, you and your reference frames are ruined. Well, apparently, or what did you use? Relatively, who cares? They're supposed to have drift and they don't.
Okay.
Any more?
Either that, or it's this weird convolution where they think they can have their reference frames and have it ruined at the same time, and that some things apparently deviate and other things don't, and they just keep going back and forth, keeping that very confused. Which is, by the way, absolutely ridiculous. Like you said, either there has to be drift or there isn't any drift, but they seem to believe that there's this quantum situation or in between, or as I said earlier, refracted Coriolis effect. Some things drifting, some things don't. They think this is apparently possible for some reason.
But how would you come to this conclusion if you see the sun's moving and not the Earth?
That's Coriolis deflection. That's one of them. Yeah, that's one of their claims of Coriolis. But I was just about to answer Arwin. So, if you've got the arbiters of this nonsense giving you complete disinformation and literally confusing or deliberately describing Coriolis force as an actual force that can move things, and then in the same statements describing Coriolis force as a not actual deflection observed only because you turn underneath, then most people who come here to argue it won't understand themselves. You know, they'll go round in circles. They do it in the comments. They go round and round in circles saying, yeah, we have got 15 degrees an hour drift. Thanks, Bob, for proving that Earth turns underneath the gyro and we see it deflect at 15 degrees an hour. And we go, well, we're turning underneath stuff then. So we turn underneath planes to see them drift at 15 degrees an hour. And they go, no, the plane, immediately taking it away from you observing it on the ground, the plane and atmosphere move together. It's like, well, that's not me on the ground seeing it seem to drift apart then, is it? And they go, no, we wouldn't have drift. They're moving together. And you go, well, you're supposed to have 15 degrees an hour of drift as Earth turns underneath. Well, we do. Thanks, Bob. And you go round and round and round with them not recognising that you can't have it both ways. You can't have stuff not drifting apart as we rotate underneath and drifting apart as we rotate underneath. You can't have it both ways. What's the reality? Well, nothing's drifting apart from you. Don't throw a ball in the air on the equator and watch it move away from you 1,000 miles an hour, because in reality you're turning underneath it, as is claimed to be the case. So nothing's drifting. There's no Coriolis effect on Earth, even though that's supposed to be proof of Earth's spin.
Excellent. I want to say something here and then go back to my question, so we're not done with the subject, hopefully. Drift or no drift, that is the question. So they say there's Coriolis forces, but then at the same time, it's described as a not actual force or deflection. They say there's 15 degrees of drift, and then they say we don't see 15 degrees of drift. But what is reality? That's doublespeak. That's what's reality.
Well, maybe they want to conjure up this drift that doesn't have to do with the natural consequences of the Earth spinning, but that they do associate, at least through the name, like a Coriolis force, and then they can just fool around with that, drawing away from getting attention on the natural consequences of a ball actually spinning in relation to air. And then there would be a drift. They basically don't want that to sink in, to have that visualized, so they then conjure up other concepts convoluted to basically distract away from it. I guess that is what it is.
But you can't have two descriptions of the word both opposite of each other.
Hold on a second. Hold on. Mr. Fly Guy. Go ahead.
I'd rather be the smartest person in the room sometimes, but not all the time. I feel like usually I'd just rather be pretty dumb. Pretty fun.
Right, how old are you?
Good morning, Ashley.
How old are you? Hello? How old are you?
You were breaking up.
Okay, well, you're not responding to me. There's an age limit on this server, so get out.
You gotta learn how to lie. Just say you're 20.
No, don't. Just, Neil, I sometimes could throttle you.
You're such a dick, Neil.
Okay, but like I was trying to...
What's wrong with people?
What's wrong? Don't you know how to get into a cinema underage?
Neil.
Are you gonna answer his birth certificate?
These guys know how to get drinks.
Neil.
Oh, Neil, you're a terrible influence.
So don't
them at their word.
Legal consequences.
Right, just for the record, honesty is the best policy. Don't lie.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, but before this all happened, like I was trying to say, they're just actually dishonest if they want to claim drift and not drift. It's the same with when they claim the Earth is closed but open at the same time. It's just the same dishonesty.
That's what you get when you've got a cult-like religion.
Well, that was the point I'm trying to make. Everything that they need to prove their model is reality, but when you check it out with reality, it's the opposite proof. So they're stuck. They have to say it's there, then they have to say it's not there. That it is and it isn't. It's classic.
Yes, what you've got is a claim within the model on how it should work. So with Coriolis, the claim is Earth rotates underneath things not attached at 15 degrees an hour, causing an apparent deflection called Coriolis effect. That's the claim. Then you've got the reality. That doesn't happen in reality. So then you've got the trench level defense of the failure of the claim. Well, we wouldn't expect to see drift, Earth and atmosphere move together. So they've assumed their outcome, rather than proving it with drift, and justified why we don't get the very thing they've claimed should happen. That's drift. Because it doesn't happen in reality. So you get claim, based on model, us exposing how it doesn't happen in reality, and then them justifying why it doesn't happen in reality.
Sounds like a lot like the physical geometric horizon that you could never see, but somehow they measured it.
Yeah, it only exists in the maths. That would be, again, they've got an idea that the horizon's a physical sphere edge blocking boats and buildings, quantifiable in side-on profile view that doesn't give you perspective. And they reify it into the position you see. We point out the position you see isn't physical. It's an apparent location. And they then go about justifying how they move that position to a different position that's not actual with their assumption that it's physical and that they can measure it. The horizon's not a sphere edge. We're not spinning. Let's move on. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
It's over there. Or it seems to be over there. Because to say it is already kind of physical, sort of. It's suggesting there's a physical thing to it. And I just think it's just visual. It's a visual. something.
Sorry, are we using a concept? Are we trying to use a concept to have a unit of something that's not tangible?
Yeah, the guy in the pre-show basically covered that. I can't remember anybody's names at the moment. I'm on top form. Top form. Another point that you can't get an actual distance to triangulate because it's not tangible. But if you physically reify it into an actual point, and then you insert an R value to measure the distance that you've assumed, and then you take that exact same R value and assume that a different light in the sky has got a scaling value because it's got the same R value as Earth's been assumed to have, then you can apply Kepler's third law of interplanetary motion and derive all of the values you require to give you a distance to the Sun and all the other planets. It's all based on R.
Right. You could just as well ask, what's the distance to the pot of gold under the rainbow?
Exactly. The distance to rainbow is actually sufficient, Arwen. You don't need the pot of gold bit. You just need the rainbow bit.
Right.
There was a lot of begging the question assumptions there when the R value of Venus is presupposed. Then you got to presuppose their version of outer space, but you can't have that because you can't have gas pressure next to a vacuum. So there's a lot of they have to go and do more guesswork and violating everything to even get what they say is how they got the distance.
Dedicated to Arwen, who is ace. Any evidence of the distance to the rainbow for any LGBTQ fans?
Now keep your distance, people. Don't go there. Everything becomes refracted.
Wait a second. That rainbow is from God. Take that back.
True.
Take it back and ask for a refund?
But then again, you look, a rainbow prisma is basically broken white light. So there is that ironic factor to it.
Does God do refunds? I'm very disappointed with this rainbow. I want my money back.
Can't give it back. I don't want them claiming the colors, the LGBTQYZ, whatever they are. Those are given by God, and they're colors of glory. That's covenant.
Right.
Hold on.
Not destroy the world.
I get
Hold on. In the interest of balance, they're entitled to whatever colours they like.
Right, but look, Neil. The thing is, the rainbow is literally what you can make that with a prism, and what it is literally doing is breaking white light. What is white light? It's the full spectrum. It's there's a godly element to it. It's all of it.
Hold on,
well, guess what? The prism breaks it apart into a rainbow. So
being corrected. Hold on, I've got the producer in my ear. Sorry, what's that? They can't have magenta.
Yeah, that too.
Well, all I
agree.
All I know is what.
But you see that?
Said, hey, all I know is that after what Neil said, the comments will be flooding in.
For anyone who took offense,
it just always stuck to me that rainbow colors is basically broken light, broken white light. That's kind of ironic to me, considering their agenda.
For anybody who took
I heard
offense to
something
the
other day. Is that true that you can't you can get the colors of a rainbow inside your house, but you can't get like the shape that you get in a natural rainbow, where it's like a bow? Is that true?
Shine light through water. So if you can make a strong enough light and you can get a watering can in your bathroom, I'm sure you can create a rainbow.
Yeah, I know. They said you can only get the colors and it's straight, but it's never going to bow like outside. I just was wondering if that's true or not.
Yeah, but that's because the sunlight is holographic. So any side effect from rainbow will be also prismatic much more than any locally created light.
Hold on, you just used two words, prismatic and holographic. Hold on, which one?
So the rainbow will be extra prismatic because it's based on holographic light of the sun.
Oh, right. Holographic light. What the hell are you babbling about?
I don't know. Light originating
from a non-physical source. That's a great start.
Light originating from a non-physical source. Light manifest. So
intangible.
I don't know. Holographic is basically an image of light. That's what it literally means.
Yeah, but it might actually be a ball of gas burning in a vacuum.
Yeah, right.
Sound like me now.
Let's move on.
That's a good one.
Talking of preposterous notions, any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
too much contradictions in that one statement.
No, I like Jules Verne's version better.
Any comments on the Molten Iron Core from Discord? Going to be a short one. Broken curves. Is he on server mute? Oh, he must have dropped and come back in. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I was going to say the light from the sun, or if the sun is an effect of light, it's really hard to say. We don't know truly what light is because it's affected by, knowing the path information of it changes its behavior. So it's a real complicated subject. To just say it's a burning ball of gas in a vacuum is insane.
Indeed. But Molten Iron
Well,
Core.
I think, if I may, I think that we can definitely, and we should, distinguish regular light that we can make through a candle, through chemical, or through electrical light with celestial light, because it just seems to be very different. One lacks the proof of a physical origin entirely, and the other clearly does not. And it looks different. But
Clearly
that's
still on the
just
sun,
how
which
I
is fair enough, I
like to divide
suppose. But
things.
Molten Iron Core, we're going to move past that one. Clearly no one's got anything to say about that. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Is gravity a force?
It's a reification fallacy.
I think that answers your question, Flatsoid.
That would mean no.
No.
Can this concept of gravity overcome anything?
No. Anything physical? No.
But the question was incorrect. It's not, is gravity a force? You're supposed to say, what is gravity supposed to be?
Oh, I like to think of it
It
as
isn't
being
anything. It's just a reification fallacy.
Yeah, but I like to think of it as a roast chicken.
Right. Well, you can do that.
Well, Owen, have you figured out what the cause of gravity is?
Man,
Acid content.
There we go.
the cause is man. They conceived it. They conjured it.
It's just a description. The cause of the description is man. The cause of it being reified into a force that you can think of as a force but it's not actually a force is also man. Correct, are we? Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Do they use the scientific method?
They can. They've got plenty of phenomenon to study.
But
Phenomena.
they'll probably be with a whole bunch of nulls then, correct?
Say that again. I spoke through you to correct my incorrect plural.
So they'll probably have a whole bunch of null hypotheses then, correct?
That can't do it, Captain. That cannot hold the story together.
If they did, they could present that, though. I mean, if somebody's tried to vary and manipulate something which they've assumed is the cause, they varied it and it didn't cause it, that would be a valid hypothesis and also a valid experiment. The experiment, when you perform it, if you've got a valid hypothesis, obviously, you're still validating something. You're proving the null. So, but like I say, or as I've said in the last few shows, we're not actually asking for even that. But if they had that, that would be more than brilliant. Okay, so you thought that caused it, you tried to vary it, and it didn't cause it. So you proved that didn't cause it then. Great. If they had that, I'd love to see that equally. Now, null results don't suddenly mean that you can extrapolate out the cause. That has happened many times in flat Earth. So flat earthers will go back to old quasi-experiments, see that they've got a null result. What null means is you proved that the thing you tried to vary to cause the effect didn't cause the effect. That's all it proves. To then make up a just so story based on the null, which I've seen done many times, is also invalid. Likewise, if you've got a valid hypothesis, confirmation, experiment that was successful, you proved your cause. Again, you see people extrapolate that out into all sorts of just so stories based on a little bit of validity because they had science at some stage that was validated. Again, we're not even asking for that. Just a viable hypothesis. That would be a phenomenon that they're studying, a presumed cause, formulated with a null. Don't even have to actually do the experiment. Like the guy, like John, yesterday. Here you go, here's my hypothesis. Is it valid? Yeah, it is. So easy, right? And they've got plenty of stuff that they study occurring, happenings, phenomenon. They've got plenty of phenomena to give us to study. Get on with it. Give us some hypotheses.
It's actually quite sad because, I mean, you would think the scientific community would know how to use science.
Right,
None
but
of my
as
colleagues
I said, they
and,
can't do it and hold the story together. They can't do it, Captain.
Where's Chocolate when you need him? None of my colleagues use the scientific method.
Michio Kaku, right?
Yeah.
Where's
String
Chocolate?
theorist.
It's based on guesswork. Yeah. Formulating a hypothesis is validating it and getting it right. That's a different matter. They don't worry about it. They've got plenty of stories to be getting on with. Typing and stuff, looking at emails.
Nobody that I know of in my field uses the so-called scientific method. In our field, it is by the seat of your pants, leaps of logic. It is guesswork.
The full quote, Michio Kaku. Yeah, spot on.
But also, doesn't he say that their mathematical equations, everything comes up to like something with 1 to how much zeros? It's not even supposed to be, if scientific, not even supposed to be off by 1, by nothing.
If you've got a valid cause, it's not quantitative. Again, we went over that. I can't remember if this isn't the pre-show or in the live show. How much of it is happening is irrelevant if you don't know what actually caused it. Back to, well, how much acid makes it boil at what rate? Well, lots and lots makes it boil really quickly. Add loads of acid and you watch the water No, because I haven't validated it scientifically. I've not actually added acid to water and gone, I'm actually validating my null. It didn't cause it to boil. That's not what's occurring when you validate a null or even don't validate anything.
So you didn't throw enough acid in then?
But if I give you the quantities and show you how they do add up and the end result is the amount of boiling, does that make my claim valid? Quick shout out to Unisox Femu, who says, your video is fake. What? Your video is fake. Yeah, he did actually say that. My is real, has globe proofs. Spoken like a true baller. Thank you for the super chat, Unisox Femu.
Usually in science, if we're off by a factor of 2 or a factor of 10, we call that horrible. We say something's wrong with the theory. We're off by the factor of 10. However, in cosmology, we're off by the factor of 10 to the 120. That is 1 with 120 zeros after it. This is the largest mismatch between theory and experiment in the history of science. Michio Kaku.
So no science there?
No, none. That's why we're asking. Any evidence of the R value, Earth radius?
Would you not need a physical shape to have a radius?
They assume it and assume it's got a radius. They assume the horizon's a tangent point to measure it.
If the horizon only exists in the camera, though, then how can it be a physical radius?
That's correct. The horizon, that's beautifully well put, John. The horizon only exists in the camera, and the geometric sphere edge horizon only exists in Earth curve maths. Quote Rumpus. It only exists in the maths. R is dead. Black Swan killed it. It's been almost a year now.
And they're still running scared.
Indeed. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon, for all the people who think that this beautiful blue sky that we see in this picture is actually 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum.
It's amazing. Everything in reality actually requires containment of some sort. Who figures?
Changed my backdrop today for this members only.
Wait a minute.
It's now
I got to speak for the flat Earth. There's this downward force, but it's not gravity. It doesn't violate, but does violate. Come on, Flatzoid.
It doesn't violate the law of doesn't violate the law of entropy. Apparently.
But a downward force can it? Can a downward force violate the second law?
Apparently, to him and PhD Tony, you can violate it. Second law of thermodynamics is not violated with a downward force.
So,
have you guys ever seen Zachary Zabala's video where he applies an electric current and he causes the object to move up and down, sort of on the same principle as electromagnetic tethering, and how they get atmospheric balloons to raise or lower based on a current that's applied?
Yeah, Zach's ace. Shout out to Zachary Zabala. Subscribe today. His channel's name is as follows: GUDTIMS 4 all ALL. So good times for all, but spelled good Tims 4 ALL. Go and subscribe today. He is ace. He also appears on Iron Realm Media. So he will have been on, when's this out? Sunday. He will have been on 2 days ago, Friday night for us. If you remember, it'll be tonight. I think it's 10:30 p.m. UK time. He's on Have No Sphere on Iron Realm Media. So shout out to those guys as well. Zachary Sabala is one of their crew. But yes, sorry to distract and do a big massive plug for Zach.
Is he also the guy that did the pressure gradient in containment?
He is indeed. That was what I assumed was going to be the next thing off this chap's lips. Flat Earth Solar. Is that you?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Did you see Zachary Sabala creating a gas pressure gradient in a container?
I did. I love the demonstrations. It's sort of on the same level as Anthony Riley doing his suspended egg with the density disequilibrium, manipulating the variable. For me, I listen to Globebusters as well, and Bob and them, and I always listen to you guys daily. And effectively, Bob always claims that that's his proof of gravity, or his scientific proof is that manipulation of altitude based on a magnetic current or an electric current. But I think it might be unrelated. It might just be separate effects that we're noticing, not necessarily something that's attracting something downwards indefinitely. But I think, as Flatzoid said earlier, if there was some sort of maybe it was Paul, where he said there's a downward, some sort of attraction, could that decrease entropy? And now we know entropy is always increasing, but effectively, could some sort of an electro potential downwards, could that affect gases in terms of how we get that gradiated layers in our atmosphere and how the pressure decreases as we rise up?
Maybe. I hope he establishes this as well. In terms of what is the cause of entropy, we don't know. But what I will do is sing his praises in this regard. As much as this causes some tension amongst the internal flat Earth community, you've got to say it's exciting. And you've got to take your hat off to people who have realised how wondrous the world is and thought, well, I'm going to see if I can figure it out. Isn't that wonderful? The world of possibility that lays before you when you become a flat earther, isn't that to be praised? And the discussion that it generates. I'm not going to knock the fact that people like Anthony Riley disagree with Bob. More power to both of them, because that's how things progress. Let's hope it is a bit less hostile going forward. Enough said.
I just have to say I'm happy that there's another South African on the board.
I thought he was Indian. You're not Indian, my friend.
No, definitely not. South African. I've been listening to you since about probably show 60. So
you what?
Really.
You say Flatzoid's South African as well?
Time. Yes.
No, I'm Chinese.
I thought you were Indian as well. Well, there you go. I was picturing you in a turban and everything.
Contradicts your British accent, implies a smart.
Me, I'm Jamaican.
That you said yesterday.
I'm black and I'm proud.
Blood clot.
Anyway, I think we've covered all of the housekeeping questions. That's a very strange end to the housekeeping, but there we go.
I have a question about F equals MA.
Okay.
Well, they always say force is equal to mass and acceleration. But you know, your mind moves your body all the time, and your mind's not a force in their paradigm, right?
No, but the breakdown of chemicals in your body to produce your muscle movement is.
But that's not thought.
It's taking kinetic energy.
Are you talking about the
force?
Hold on. Are you talking about the brain firing synapses and then you moving? Because I could qualify that physically too.
Well, you like if I say I'm going to go grab the cup, you know, there's a concept of the cup. You're having to think, but I don't think it's. I think it's more of a mental thing, which they kind of try to exclude. That's why they made F equals ma. They don't want to think that it's anything within us that affects the world around us.
Okay, I see your point. Yeah, I'll go with that in that context.
I would
But
suggest
to be
that
honest,
the
F equals
atomistic
ma
thinking.
actually still works.
I think I know where John is going to. It's not the tip of my tongue, but basically, say there's a glass of water in front of you on the table, and you want to go get it and drink of it. How does that process even begin? Obviously, the arm reaches out and grabs it. But what caused the arm to reach out and grab it? Was it your desire to quench your thirst? This is where John is going with this. It's so fast. The synapses are firing incredibly fast to hit the muscles to make your arm go out. But what caused your arm to go out? Was it thought? Is that real? I think this is where John is going.
It depends on
They
the context.
describe that as
kind of-
kilojoules consumed or expended. So whatever material you've consumed that's given you the energy, then effectively you're expending those kilojoules to, you know, your synapses triggering the muscles to then pick up that container. So I think you're right in terms of what's the origination of the thing is the mind. But the atomistic thinking will always say it's the actual neuron firing and the muscle picking it up. But there's definitely something to do with fasting where you don't consume any calories, but you can still run. You can still walk and do activities. So therefore you're losing more calories than what you've actually accepted or inputted, you know,
Fasting.
which does then,
you sure
which
you're
does
not,
cause a question mark.
You sure you're not Indian?
Hey, I also fast. I'm not Indian.
Well,
I'm
it's
pretty
just-
sure. I'm
but I
pretty sure.
fasted.
Yeah.
What?
Nathan, do you know you also fast every time you go to bed? You're not eating. That's a time of fasting.
And what
That's
do they
why they
call
call it
what
breakfast.
do they call it when you wake up and eat something? They call it breakfast.
Breakfast. Exactly. So you fast every night.
Indeed. Shout out to Michael Miyashiro. Hope I've said that correctly. Welcome to Lion. Thank you for joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 member.
Whatever you do, do not break a 3-day fast with McDonald's. It will cause you serious pain.
I'd like
Not a
to
McDonald's
go back.
guy.
I'd like to make a comment about the mind issue on the ontological primitives. If things weren't happening or moving or nothing was at a steady state, nothing occurring, something had to make a choice to cause something to change. You understand what I'm saying?
No, that description violates the second law of thermodynamics. There is no situation where nothing's changing.
Well, I mean, if the universe did not exist, nothing was there. Of course,
No. You're taking some arbitrary description of someone who's come up with an idea. It's Lemaitre, right? Of there being a nothing with nothing decaying and nothing existing prior to an explosion of everything from nothing. Divide by zero, get everything. Well, this is. Oh, there's a word for this. It's hold on. There's a word for this. It's bollocks.
Well, wait a minute though. See, in the Christian worldview, there's a thing called ex nihilo. You know what that means? I know Kenneth Man knows what that means.
Yeah, it's a biblical description of the exact same thing.
I know. So if there was nothing there, right? Nothing, no thing. Something had to change to create something. And the only way that can happen is an agent. A choice had to be made. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and all anybody will ever have to come back at you with that statement is the infinite regress fallacy, which I'm not going to repeat.
And that's why I was trying to go through.
No. Oh, sorry. Floyd. No,
And that's
the
what
infinite
and that
regress.
was.
Go ahead.
No, it's fine. You can. I was just saying that's what I was trying to get through with Craig about the Big Bang and why it violates the first law of thermodynamics. Exactly that point.
But there is no infinite regress with God. All causes start with Him. So everything starts there. So His choice to make something is the beginning. There is no infinite regress in that.
Yeah, and further to that, the the existence that we do live in, when you take a very limited understanding of light, appears to present itself as, I hate this word, simulation, or at the very least, a rendered reality. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, if you take diffraction of light and figure out what causes it to go from a probability distribution, just to be clear, that's a wave function. Light is not a wave, but the probability distribution, that would be the likelihood of it being here, there, or somewhere else, is interrupted by us, or by, more specifically, a knower, an agent that can acquire knowledge of that light. And at that point, it actualizes itself. It stops being a probability distribution and becomes an actualization. Now, that, although that's a scientifically valid description of the double slit experiment, can be, although I poo-pooed doing this earlier, extrapolated out into this reality being rendered. In other words, if you don't have knowledge of that path information, then you've only got a probability. Without a decision being made, it's only a choice of outcomes. So that is still a true statement, but that, like I say, in turn, logically leads you to rendered reality, as scary as it is for me to actually say that. It's something I contemplated quite some time ago. I don't like it, but that's just the way it is. That's how light behaves.
Well, and that's basically what I'm saying. Basically, you just kind of went around a different direction with it. There has to be a choice. There has to be someone there. There has to be something to initiate, to start the process.
Yeah, Noah. A Noah. Someone who can know.
Well, there's design without a designer comes to my mind, or they're saying accidental purpose doesn't exist.
Cue the picture of sand dunes versus a sculpted sandcastle. No amount of time and chance will make the sandcastle. That requires intelligent agency. But that's what they've got you believing. It's just a matter of time and a dinosaur. It's just a question of time.
And a dinosaur, love it.
Quick shout to
They sure have.
I like the art.
Go on. Go on, John.
I like the argument that if you put enough chimpanzees in a room, that they'll write Shakespeare over enough time. But that's not really their argument, because they believe if you put typewriters in a room over a long enough time, they'll write Shakespeare.
Yeah, but the principle's the same. It's the same with the 100th monkey effect. JLB covers these bullshit stories with no validity quite often. People take these, they're just old wives' tales that have been documented with a cast and crew and a set and a stage and a producer and a scriptwriter and a predetermined outcome to describe this effect. Total nonsense. 100 monkey effect, complete nonsense. People will parrot it off.
Well, here's the thing. Well, here's the
That's monkey effect. That's something else.
Hold on, Erwin.
Yeah, I know it's something else. I'm just saying it's just those stories that get made up as old wives' tale. I know he's not saying the 100 monkey effect. I'm just using it as an example where you can easily, readily find people who debunk it as the nonsense it is.
Here's the thing, even about the 100 monkey effect. Even if you've got all the letters lined up, without a knower, you won't know what those words mean. You still need to know her.
Yeah, they would have you believe it's just a question of time, and enough time progresses and enough generations of monkeys go by, providing the typewriters were functional and example, eventually they'd write the complete works of Shakespeare. But that's the same idea that with enough time, the sand dune will form itself in some place into a perfectly sculpted sandcastle.
Brings to mind monkey see, monkey do, but you got to have the first monkey writing Shakespeare.
Francis Bacon. No, sorry, I'm thinking of Kevin Bacon. My bad.
I was going to say, that argument doesn't sizzle yet. I was waiting for something else.
So, just a quick shout out to all of Nathan Oakley 1980 channel members. So you're all chatting away happily on a Thursday and Friday. We get this show all to ourselves without having to concern ourselves with the chat trolls who are going to only be capable of chatting in the live show on Monday to Wednesday. So from now on, the Thursday and Friday show, if you want to chat as a participant and you're not a member, you can, because they get re-released with the uncut and after show beginning and after, sort of top and tailing the live show on a Saturday and Sunday. So you can still comment. There will be a chat comment feed for everybody at some stage, but same goes for actually watching the uncut and after show. We keep talking about how this is Sunday. Well, it's actually Friday for the people watching as a member. So become a Nathan Oakley channel member today, or Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member today. Anything anyone wants to add before I round out and ask people to stay tuned if they're watching on a premiering stream? Don't all go at once.
No, it's been a good show. It's been a good show so far. I love it.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, and there's a good atmosphere in the chat too. I've been looking at it, and yeah, I don't need to moderate now.
That's why I noted it. I've been watching it scroll on by, and I was like, "Oh, it's nice, refreshing to see nice chat going by." So yeah, another big shout out to everyone in the Nathan Oakley 1980 members only chat stream during this live show. If you are watching live, unfortunately, this is where we bid you farewell. However, if you are watching on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you. Smashed the super chat, joined as a member, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out NathanOakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley. Stay tuned if you're watching on a premiering stream, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!